Hello friends, we are back for another set of nails. Today we're doing wedding nails because, you know, wedding season is all the time. I am starting off today with a sheer nude base. It is a combination of Passions, which is a no PI color, I believe, and Negligee, which is a creative color. This polish is still a little tacky right now while I'm working with it because it is not a gel polish. You do have to work with it while it's still a little wet. If you were doing this on gel polish, obviously you wouldn't need to do that. So in order to embed it, I just need to work with it a little bit wet. So it's dried for just a couple seconds before I started doing this. And I am using angel flakes or Mylar flakes, depends on where you buy them from, what they're called. And what I'm doing is using a silicone tool to embed those into the wet polish so that way it's flat and a little bit sticky. The reason I chose to use a silicone tool is that it oftentimes does not leave impressions into the paint, which obviously is important when you're working with regular nail polish. I'm going to go in next with a coat of shellac, sorry, not shellac, Vynlux. Vynlux top coat, which is a creative nail design product or C&D product. It is a professional product. One of my favorites. I am going to coat all of these, and you'll notice that I'm going over the Mylar first and then sort of filling it in afterwards. The reason for that is because you can see right there, I pulled a little piece of Mylar out when I was polishing. I didn't want the Mylar to end up all over the nail. So by sealing that in first and then putting the top coat, I apologize, I'm yawning, on the rest, it allowed me to be able to keep the Mylar off the places I did not want them. Now, because these are a wedding set and because, I don't know, this bride, I'm going to imagine, wanted teal in her nails, we're doing something blue on her nails. It's a great way to incorporate something blue, especially if you have a bride that doesn't know where she's going to put something blue or what blue thing she has. There you have it. I am going to seal those nails for about 3 minutes in the light before I start this. So I did fast forward through that because we didn't need to see all that. And what I'm doing now is creating the vines on the nails. I was actually inspired by another YouTuber. Her name I do not have in front of me. It's Dorota, I believe. And she does some really, really amazing nails. So I was watching a video one day and she was doing something kind of similar, not exactly the same by any stretch, but it inspired me. Anyway, so moving on. So yes, check our videos out too. I'll try to remember to link that video if I find it again in the description. And so what you're going to be doing, I sped this up. It does take a little time, so plan an extra 20 or 30 minutes if you're doing this design for a wedding, which obviously most of us at a salon are going to do that anyway. So it does take a little time to do these, and what I'm doing is using the opposite. So you'll notice when I place the Mylar down, I use sort of an S curve going in one direction on two nails, going the opposite direction on the other two nails, and then the center nail, it goes right down the middle. So now what I'm doing is as I'm placing those vines, I'm using that S pattern to help me sort of accentuate the nails. These are done on stilettos, but you could do them on anything. It's just something I picked up to have a different shape in the nails. So as I'm going along, I'm going to continue to do some drawing here. It is freehand. You could certainly use decals or any of that kind of stuff if you wanted to, or if you feel like you're not strong with doing the kind of a viney design. I am pretty comfortable with it. Sometimes I like it. Sometimes I get frustrated with myself. But for the most part, I don't really generally have too many issues with creating that. What I am using for paint is just regular acrylic paint that you get at the craft store. It works perfectly fine on most acrylics. Some gel polishes don't really like it. I've had gel polishes react badly every once in a while to acrylic paints. So I would suggest if you're doing this on a gel set, using gel paints or using acrylics that you haven't had trouble with. in the past, because there's nothing worse than having a bride and then having something happen to her nails the day of her wedding or the day before her wedding, and now you're in an emergency situation. So once you get all of these lines painted, which I am almost there, we will be putting some rhinestones on them, but you don't have to. I liked this set with and without. I feel like you could do it either way. The nice thing about the acrylic is that it's going to dry super fast. So by the time I finish that middle nail in a second, the entire set will pretty much be dry. So I can go ahead and work right on top of it without any issues. I will be using the Vynlux throughout today to help me place those gemstones. I've said this before in other videos, but I'm going to say it here again, as I think it's worth mentioning. These I typically keep at the salon as demo sets, so they're just there for show, essentially, to see, so people can, you know, pick and choose and see what they like. If I were going to do this on a bride, I would definitely be using, at this point, I would be using some kind of a stone setting, like gel adhesive, that kind of thing. But where I'm not going to be doing that, and these are going to be sitting on a display, I don't really worry about that so much. If I have a bride that's only going to wear this look for 2 or 3 days, I would again do the same thing. So I would only be using top coat underneath them instead of using that adhesive. But if my bride plans on wearing these for 2 weeks and through her honeymoon and that kind of thing, I would definitely be using it, you know, some of that, those adhesive stone glues. So here I am going to be using the top coat, and I'm combining those gemstones that I showed you earlier. I purchased them at Hobby Lobby, and they have kind of a hexagonal pattern to them. You can see them a little better in this close-up. They are a little bit matte and a little bit shiny. They're plastic. They're not, you know, they're nothing fancy as far as like crystals go. They're not Swarovski. They're not, you know, any of the other types of leaded crystal or any of that kind of stuff. So I'm not really worried about getting top coat on the sides or the top of them. So I'm just going to keep working with this set of crystals until I feel like I have enough crystals on the nail, which is just going to take another second or two. You can see me moving them around a little bit in the top coat. Again, it stays wet for a little while, so you can, you know, work with it a little bit and be a little pliable with it as you go. I'm also going to end up putting, right, so you can see it now. What I'm doing is just kind of filling in between. So there's nothing worse, again, than being a bride and having your nails get caught constantly. So we wouldn't want that to happen. So what I tend to do is fill in between. That's the, again, one of those differences, right? If I was using a gel adhesive, it would kind of squish out the sides and fill it in for me. But because I'm only using a really thin setting top coat, I need to make sure that I'm filling it in between. What I'm doing right now is adding some caviar beads, because really what I wanted this to look like was sort of an abstract bouquet when I was finished. So giving the caviar beads, tapping them in between, not every stone, but in between some of the stones, does 2 things for me. It fills it in to keep the nail from catching so easily. The other thing, and obviously pulling stones off, I don't want that to happen either. The other thing that it does is it separates the design a little bit, because these colors are all pastel. So it's like a pastel blue, then a little bit deeper turquoise kind of color, and a whitish color. They really blended together, especially on the background, because the background's very light. So the caviar beads just help to break up the entire look and give it, again, sort of that impression that it's almost like a little bouquet, as if it were the bride's bouquet that she was holding on to. Once I get these pieces put in, we are going to be adding some more rhinestones, but they are not the same. They will actually be rhinestones that are backed, they're silver backed, and they have sort of an iridescent quality to them, but they're a really light lavender. That's a lavender blue kind of a color, and that's what we're going to be adding to the rest of the nails in just a moment. And I am also going to use some more caviar beads as well on the pinky nail, because I felt like the rhinestones would have been a little too much there. And I do like, ultimately I liked the outcome of the entire thing. So that nail is now done. You can see I'm going to, oh, actually, I'm sorry, it's not done. I decided to add a few more caviar beads. And I was struggling with these. Some days caviar beads, when you're using the really tiny ones, go so smooth. And other days you just want to scream. And that was kind of where I was with this. All right, now I'm going over to that pinky nail. I'm just going to add a couple of little caviar beads there. One of the things I like about the caviar beads is you can lay them two ways. If you lay them face up, then they almost create like a crevice. I don't know how to say crevice is like a bad word. I can't think of a good word to describe it. It's like a conical shape and they have kind of a sparkle to them. If you lay them face down, like I am doing right now on the pinky, sorry, I just went out of shot, but I'll be back in a second. It is smooth. You can see that there. It's more of a smooth, almost button-like texture to it. And that's kind of where I was going with that. It reminded me a little bit of the buttons on the back of a bride's dress, that type of a thing. Here comes those other stones that I was telling you about. These obviously have a bit more sparkle to them than the center stones, and that's okay. I really wanted that offset where you almost have this semi-matte and shiny look going at the same time. And ultimately, I was very happy with the overall design of these nails. I thought they were a very sweet set, very pretty, very elegant, obviously for your wedding day. So we're just adding those last couple stones to each of the nails, and then we're going to, whoop, that was too big. I'm grabbing them out of a dish that I have with a bunch of stones in it. And clearly I got a little excited there. There we go. And so what I will do now is add 2 coats of top coat. Again, these are just going to be for display. I would also do that if I were working on a bride. You can see that again, kind of like the Mylar, I'm using top coat in between all of those stones first. And then you're going to notice in a minute, I'm going to go back, work my way back through the nails again, coating the entire nail to make sure that it is secure and shiny and there's enough top coat everywhere to pick up those colors underneath. After this, I'm going to put them in the lamp for about 5 to 10 minutes. I know that seems like a really long time, but I want to make sure that they set really well, and I would want that for a bride as well. And there we go. That is our final set. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see ya next time.